Welcome to Morning Reflections. I am your host, the Fat Mantis. Today, we will not be discussing the normal politics and culture segments. We will not be discussing the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump's latest misadventures in the Ukraine, nor will we be discussing Eli Manning's end of his career and probably contemplation of suicide. None of it will be discussed, but instead we will be focusing on my theory crafting for American Horror Story 1984. Warning! The following will have spoilers and disgusting imagery. You have been warned.
Excellent. So the first thing I wanted to do was go over this new beginning. So I'm gonna play it right now. And as many of you probably know, every season they have a new beginning that's remixed of the theme. But according to the producers, you need to watch the vast majority of the episodes. When there were 12 episode seasons, you had to watch the first 10 episodes before you understood all this imagery. So they've added all these images, like the keys and the lake and all these things. I'm wondering how coded these are. These are less mysterious than previous seasons. I would say the most mysterious being season 1. But look at that, a lake. We already know what a lake is. I mean, will there really be a bloody cassette or wine crashing down, or even Ronald Reagan? Or are they just 80sing it up? I really don't know. I would be really impressed if every one of these images were later on used in some way in the story. They're just throwing blood on 80s things. So as of right now, I'm unimpressed. But it looks like it's just going along the normal thematics of American Horror Story. So we need to get into all these conspiracies. And so the name of the game this season is Irreliable Narrators. Now, what I'm saying right now in this is that people have either lying or not telling the truth, but I think this is the first season that they've relied so heavily on it. And in the first episode alone, I have already caught 3 characters lying about their past, what they're really all about. And this is where my conspiracy theories will go. So I'm going to go from the most benign of the liars to the most severe. And our first one is Xavier, and that's played by Cody Fern. So Cody Fern goes on and on about how he's an actor and how he's a serious actor, he's a method actor, and all these things. However, as we all know, as they want us to know, which makes me think he might be a red herring, they have him, he calls his phone machine or whatever, and he has a message from either a scorned lover or somebody, or maybe a one-night stand, but somebody who literally says, you can't take your and leave town, I'm gonna find you. Which leads you to believe that Cody Fern, and he immediately races. It doesn't tell anybody he's being stalked or whatever, which means that something serious is going on in his past. But another thing I want us just to think about in terms of him is he was the one who went really hard, he went ham, convincing everybody to go on this trip to become camp counselors. He complained about the Olympics, he complained about the Night Stalker terrorizing LA, he complained about the traffic, and he just kept relaying this idea that LA is not a good place to hang out. Now, as we know, he's an actor, and what are actors good at? They're good at lying, they're good at deceiving, they're good at mixing things up. So it is very possible that he has lured them to the camp, being the only one who's really responsible for convincing all these characters to drop what they're doing and become camp counselors at this shady camp. Brooke Thomas, played by Emma, our beautiful Emma Roberts. But I don't believe her to be a liar. But Frat Mantis, what does that mean? Well, I'll explain it. In the beginning of the show, when she meets the other crew, Xavier is going on and on, talking about the Night Stalker and how he's breaking into houses, stealing jewelry, and killing people, raping and killing them. Then she comes in and she offers out this statistic about how summer break-ins happen more often because people open their windows. They start having a conversation about it. Later on that evening, she's the only witness to the Night Stalker happens to choose her that very evening, break into her house using a window she left open during the summertime. All the elements of their story appeared in her thing, and it happens to be that she's the only one who saw the Night Stalker. Just like later on in the episode, when the phone is ringing off the hook and no one seems to be responding of it, she's the only one who gives a damn, walks down the hill to go answer this phone and happens to see the Night Stalker again. My theory is that she's psychotic, and this is all in her head. There isn't a Night Stalker, but she believes very much that she's being attacked by a Night Stalker. It's either that or she's a pathological liar, but being American Horror Story, I assume she's psychotic. Another thing we need to remember is when she went back to our house, she opened up her jewelry box when she was taking off her earrings, and she pulled out a wedding ring. Now the wedding ring could be, she could have been married young and been a divorce, or she could have a dead fiance, or this could be a reference to her parents. There is a possibility that she could be related to Mr. Jingles, perhaps, maybe the daughter of, I don't know, there's not enough information there. But there is something going on, and I promise you that wedding ring is making a return at some point. Margaret Booth, the owner of the camp, played by Leslie Grossman. Here's the situation. Later on in the story, when they're sitting around the fire, she tells the story about how she was part of the Bunker Massacre. She was the sole witness at the court hearing of Mr. Jingles to actually have him sent away. However, we saw that massacre. We saw it in the opening scenes, in the flashback opening scenes of the entire episode. And if you notice, there is no young Leslie Grossman that even actually allowed us to see all the bodies as it flipped, as the camera went to and fro. And actually in that scene, the killer is completely masked. There's dark over his face. You do not actually see who's in there. So what I am proposing is, it is very possible that Margaret, the owner of the camp, is the real killer, and she's the one who massacred the bunk. She lied about the weirdo veteran who is the janitor there because he has a limp and he likes all these things, and she actually cut off her own ear. This goes into further parts of our story just seem like total cockamamie-ness. Like she was awake and the killer came and cut off her ear and she didn't flinch or make a noise. And to be honest, that is probably, unless you're already a psychopath, that is impossible. There is no way somebody could actually do that. She also has other shady things about her. Like for instance, she was talking about how she had a husband who died very young and left her a ton of money. That's already shady as it is. But it seems as if if she is not the killer itself, it is very possible that she is just not coming clean about the entire story about what happened back there, which leads us to our culprit, Mr. Jingles. So what's going on with him? If you notice, he broke out of the psych ward and is very much clearly on a murder rampage. However, wouldn't you be if you were wrongly put into a psych ward for 17 years, kept away from your wife and daughter? Yeah, that would make me flip out as well. So, I feel like we've seen him doing that, but we never actually saw his crimes in the past. And I think it's very possible that he is innocent. That goes on to our hiker. If you notice, when they found the hiker who has all these wounds and he has his ear cut off, as Xavier pointed out, those wounds are old. He's had those wounds for at least days, which means his torture, wherever he was, what predates the actual escape of Mr. Jingles, which means Mr. Jingles couldn't have cut off his ear. Someone else did. Then later on, when he found out they brought him to Camp Redwood, he flipped out and he was scared for his life. You know why? I think he was already being tortured and killed there. And he escaped her torture dungeon in Camp Redwood, and he hit the road and he hit Miles down, and then they bumped into him and they inadvertently brought him back to his doom. So that is where my theory is going on. I believe that the religious nut is actually the killer. And this is actually interesting, the first time American Horror Story has ever done the gender swap. They've done the who is the serial killer amongst the cast, but never before have we seen a man and thought it was a woman or X, Y, and Z. This is season 9, so I applaud them. Considering they've had some seasons with 3 serial killers in it, I think they've done some good work. I mean, we don't know if this is, if this is canon, this could be just me rambling, but I think it is very possible. So what do you guys think? You think it's a possibility any of these theories are correct? What do you think's going on with Brooke's wedding ring? Other minor things we need to take into consideration is there's a fan theory going out there that supposedly a leak indicated that Montana, played by Billie Lourd, is actually a young hypodermic Sally before she went nuts. And this is her in the 80s. And this is going to explain why she becomes a serial killer herself. Now, although it's been spoiled already, I actually kind of hope that's actually true, because that would be very cool. Because although we saw the supernatural origins of Hypodermic Sally, we didn't really see her mortal ones as to why she's so nuts. And if anyone's wondering who that is the serial killer who killed heroin addicts in the Hotel Cortez in American Horror Story Hotel Season 5.
So there you have it. That was today's Morning Reflections. What do you think were some of my best fan theories? What are some of yours? Please share them in the comments below. And tune in to further Voice of the Fat Mantis Morning Reflections as I discuss the shithole that we call a country and a political system, as well as make fun of many sports stars and their fumbling careers. Anyways, I want you to go with God. Remember to watch American Horror Story on FX tonight at 10. Love and enjoy and embrace everybody. Ciao for now. Oh, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, of course. Peace.